I'd like to call the June 2024 Committee on Accreditation meeting to order. Ms. Bernardo, would you please call the roll?
Allison Leggett. Augustine. Kathy Krisha.
Here.
Katrina Chakowski.
Here.
Patrick McKee.
Here.
Paul Fraley.
Here.
Alan Hollis.
Here.
Mike Hillis.
Here.
Marissa Luna Lopez. Jason Lee.
Here.
Gerard Morrison.
Here.
Kevin Taylor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Welcome to the very first meeting of the COA and the Commission on Teacher Credentialing's new offices at 651 Bannon Street in Sacramento. We believe this is the first meeting of any state public body in this new state office complex. History in the making. This meeting is being conducted in hybrid fashion. All members are in person. Other participants, such as institutional representatives and team leads and some staff, will be attending virtually, while others will be in person. The Zoom link and a toll-free phone number have also been made available for the public. Regarding microphones, the meeting rooms in this new building include wonderful new technology, such as built-in microphones, speakers, cameras, and monitors. Please remember, we are just learning about how to best use this technology at these meetings, so we ask for patience. Members will notice they don't have individual microphones. This is because the room is equipped with ceiling microphones that will pick up everything that is said at all times. Microphones are always on, so please be aware that anything that's said in this room will be captured. Therefore, side conversations should be kept to a minimum, if at all, while in the room. Mute your laptop speakers and microphones and mute yourselves on the Zoom video. Wow. Okay, cameras. For this first meeting, the cameras will be pointed most of the time in the direction of the committee. Cameras will be pointed at presenters for the main presentation, but then will be pointed at the committee for the discussion. For now, we're not going to try to toggle the cameras back and forth, so there may be times in which presenters will have their backs to the cameras. As we get better at technology in these rooms, we hope to be able to use different cameras during the discussion. Regarding Zoom identification, throwback to the days of old. For those participating via Zoom, we'd like to ask that everyone check their Zoom identification. Make sure it contains your first and last names accurately, so we are able to call on you appropriately, and also so that we get all names accurately recorded in the meeting minutes. If you need to update your name, click on the 3 dots on the window with your picture to bring up the rename option. When it's time to take up an item, we'll need a moment to bring the appropriate virtual attendees into the main Zoom meeting room and make sure they can see and hear the committee, and we can see and hear them. Participants will need to turn on their cameras and unmute their microphones. Regarding public comment. If any member of the public wishes to comment on a specific item, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen during the item, or if you're in person, please complete a card which will be available at the back of the room. You will be brought into the main meeting room at the appropriate time and asked to state your name and affiliation for the record. If you wish to speak on a specific item, please send a request through the chat feature telling us which item you wish to speak on, so we can make sure to call on you during that appropriate time. Or you can send your comments through the chat feature and we will read those aloud. Please make sure we have your full name and affiliation and which item, number, and name. There is also a time designated for general public comment at the end of the meeting, and public comment will be restricted to 2 minutes as a reminder. The meeting is being recorded, and after the meeting ends, the archived audio and video will be available on the Commission's website. So committee members, when you make your motion, please state the motion in full so that there's no question what the motion is. Are there any questions about these protocols or voting today? Okay, seeing none, let's go to item 2, which is approval of the agenda. The first item is the approval of our agenda today. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Member Taylor. Second. Member Pracia, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so item 3 is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. Minutes of the March meeting were approved at the May meeting. However, minor edits were noted as needed after that vote. So staff is asking that we approve those minutes again. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 2024 meeting? Member McKee, thank you. Let's see, do we need to do a second to approve that? Okay, second for March. Thank you, Member Hillis. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the March minutes have been approved.
You haven't voted.
Oh, I have to take a vote, sorry. I'll take a vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Anyone opposed?
I abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
Indeed, that's appropriate, thank you. So we've just approved the minutes from the March meeting. And so now, we're going to take a look at the minutes from the May meeting, and it would be appropriate for anybody who was not here to abstain as well. I have a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting. Member McKee, thank you. Thank you, seconded by Member Hillis. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. So minutes have been approved. Thanks. Okay, item 4 is co-chair and member reports. So co-chairs, before we open it to member reports, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the contributions of 2 of our members whose last meeting is today, as their terms are expiring. So those 2 people are Dr. Kathy Kreisha and Jerry Morrison. And both of you have been solid members of the committee for many years. Jerry, you were appointed in 2016, so you've served 2 terms, a total of 8 years. Seems like a blank, and yet quite a few. And in that time, you've seen the current accreditation system since its current reconfiguration. Your voice and perspective as a classroom teacher and veteran teacher has been absolutely invaluable. And I would like to add that I appreciate your willingness to provide the perspective from collective bargaining. I think that's really important in the context of the dynamics that we consider here and in maximizing the value of accreditation so that it serves students. So it's been fun to be with you on this committee.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I can just chime, yeah. And just my perspective, Jerry, has been great getting to know you over the last 8 years, and all the time we'd hang out after meetings or the day in between or at breakfast time, and learned a lot about your past, about your experiences, how you came to the States and what brought you to teaching and what kind of extended work you've done in the city of Long Beach over in their school district. So you're irreplaceable. You've gone to the dark side of the union, but that's okay. You're still welcome, but it's been really great to know you. And I think your perspective that you bring and the way that you're able to look at different topics and are able to look at it logically and compassionately in providing input that really could be supportive for anybody who's up in front of the meeting, which can be intimidating, but then you hold firm and you do it in such a nice way that everybody feels supported. So thank you for all your years. We're going to miss you.
Does anybody else want to say anything about Jerry? Anything else nice and commending?
He gave me my favorite travel hack for these meetings, so thank you for that.
The lounge.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Need all help we can get.
I'm always going to carry the image of you working as a chauffeur. Driving around.
Previous life, yeah.
That's something I won't forget.
Thanks.
In a minute, we'll give you a chance to say something, but we want to also honor Kathy, who was appointed in 2016 and then appointed again to fill out a vacancy. So you've been here 6 years. As a member from a private institution, which we know prepares nearly half of all teachers in California, your perspective and comments have shaped the system over the years, and your contributions also have been so important to this committee. Your demeanor, which is so open and friendly and accepting and welcoming, yet willing to be challenging, I think has served as really connecting energy for our team here in the last few years. And I am personally and professionally grateful for the positive direction that you've helped us maintain this group. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been great.
I echo what Katrina said, and also I enjoy the time that we would meet over at, like, have dinner, and I can see wine in here, can't I? And some of those nights, which is enjoyable hanging with you in the Uber rides back and forth, getting to know you more personally. So it's been a great opportunity for me to have you as part of this team, and I look forward to still staying connected. We're local, so we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Any other comments about Dr. Gracia?
I'd like to say, I've enjoyed my trips back to the airport with Kathy and our occasional times at the, but these are fleeting visits, but I feel Kathy and other people have made friendships that even though they're only short spurts and then we don't see each other for a while. So I'll certainly miss you. Thank you.
Yeah, here, I'm gonna, it's weird. I look forward to meeting up with both of you when I come to these meetings. It's a lot of work and I don't always look forward to that, but the silver lining is I get to hang out with cool people like you guys. So I'll miss you both.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something, either of you, either / both of you?
I would like to say that when in 2016, I was still relatively new to higher ed. When I kind of came on, I was like, but I will say that, you know, I was encouraged to kind of do this, and I have been extremely happy and fortunate and just really blessed to have met all of you and to really have learned so much about our profession and see the inner workings. And so I greatly appreciate that. And I feel that I've grown professionally and personally with this experience. And I really, really value it. And I just want to thank all of you for, you know, all of your encouragement and all of your support and, you know, the collegiality. And I just want to say that I really, really appreciate it. And I will miss you, although I'm sure I will see you. I'm sure I'll be around somehow or another. So just thank you from, you know, from the depths of my being. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for the nice words. I've considered this a great honor to be on this committee, and apart from whatever small contribution I've made to the committee, I've actually taken quite a lot from it. I'm happy to say I've been able to take that back to my constituency, my school district, my union, and inform people about the work that this committee does, this committee in particular, but the commission in general. There's a lot of ignorance about the work that goes on behind the scenes here. And so, if nothing else, I've spent the last 8 years being an advocate for the system here, and bringing, I hope, some understanding to a much wider audience than what would have had. But on a personal level, I've considered it a great honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, let's do that.
So we have one for Kathy. So we have certificates for you both. And my name's Kathy, so Jerry. And I know Cheryl's gonna want to get a photo.
Yeah, for sure.
The flags are, yeah, which one do you prefer, the United States or California? California. We could do one in front of each.
He's got yours, I've got yours.
It's a little harder in this room, but
Okay.
You want us to open it?
I think open it would be great.
We'll tell
This way.
Yeah, so you're not.
Sun is a
They want us by-
I'm gonna go on this side. The sun.
I'm not a real American, but
You can go on this side here.
What's that for me?
totally was open.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Perfect. Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
We'll send those
you.
to you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. But you still have work to do today.
Yes.
You know.
We're gonna call on you extra. Make sure. All right, now, do any members have any other items to report? Before we hear from us? I might just make the comment from the classroom school site level, that it's been an interesting kind of turn toward normal after COVID again. I know I keep saying that it seems like things are changing one year at a time, or sort of like coming back to what seems somewhat familiar, yet completely recharted because of COVID. You know, things like the use of technology in classrooms and communication with family members, that is forever transformed for the better. And so we're not going back to the old days before COVID in that regard. I will say that at the school site, it's been interesting to consider responding to data that's coming at the state level about our relative achievement and our relative ability to serve students. That dashboard is back. And with it, all the color-coded symbols of value and excellence or lack thereof, et cetera, you know, the little arrows that point in the direction that you're going. So, you know, it's interesting to consider leaders' response to those data now and somewhat contrast them to how people responded before COVID. You know, what are we willing to do? What do we know what to do? How do those data inform our decisions in terms of making changes in organizations? It's interesting. And I'm sort of just watching that with the informed perspective of how important standards and alignment to those are for our body. So it just, you know, reminds me of how it is that we define our expectations for public service. Kind of interesting from the ground level, not from the, you know, ethereal plane of policymakers. Given the plethora of site reports, I'll hand it over to Ms. Hickey, who can lead us with staff reports.
You know, we have a lot of business today, so we'll just make this quick. I just did want to mention one thing about the building and our cameras for those that are in and out. For today, we have to actually manually move these cameras. And so once the discussion gets going, we were having a conversation about how it's going to be very difficult for our staff to toggle back and forth between there's only one camera that in here is operational. So, or actually there's two, but what we're going to do is, for the most part, it'll be on the committee. During the original presentation of the reports, it'll be on the folks that are presenting, and then it'll come back to the committee. And so we apologize for having people's backs to the camera, but for today, that's about as good as we're going to get, and we're going to try to see how we can move forward with making it toggle back and forth in the future. So just wanted to let you know, isn't intentional. We're not trying to show everybody's backs while they're talking, but that's sort of the best we can do today. And I just want to mention, because like I said, thank you for all the patience with the new building. This will be great once we iron out all the little details, but there's a lot of little details we're working out. I wanted to mention also from staff's perspective, thank you, Jerry and Kathy, for all of your contributions over the years and being very, very supportive of staff as well. It's been really a pleasure to work with you both over the years, and really, really appreciate and are thankful for your expertise that you've shared with the committee, and with staff. So thank you very much. And then lastly, I just want to mention this is, you know, June in Sacramento, so all eyes are on the budget, as it is every single year. It's a tough budget year, lots of cuts happening, lots of difficult decisions that are being made. We are watching the budget very closely for one issue in particular, and that is in the governor's budget. There is a clause in there that would accept the bachelor's degree as the proof of basic skills. So we're watching that, and if that goes through, it'll be effective when the budget goes through. So we will be getting messages out right away, because we don't want candidates to, you know, necessarily have to do things that they don't need to do, and programs have to do things but we're watching it closely. We can't say whether it'll be in there or not until the very last day. So just wanted to mention that. And that's all I have today. Oh, yes.
What's the timeline on that? Would that be like hours, days?
Well, the budget is supposed to be signed by June 30th. So we will see if they're on time. Sometimes in bad budget years, they're not on time, but I think so far it doesn't look like they're going to be late, but we also don't know. A lot of behind the scenes negotiations and that kind of thing stuff. But According to our state constitution, we're supposed to have a new budget on July 1.
That's a really important one to disseminate quickly. for
Absolutely.
You identify.
Absolutely. We're already drafting and kind of getting it ready to get it out the door the minute it comes out, and, updating websites and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so would that be applicable for all credential programs, not just teaching, so counseling?
Everything that requires a bachelor's degree. I believe there's two credential.
Requires basic skills.
Basic skills, I'm sorry. Yeah. I believe there's two areas, and I'll have to go back to look to see that it doesn't, but all the basic credentials, yes, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, interesting. Change of tune. So that is all I have this morning, because I know we have other things. Erin, do you have anything you want to add?
No, nothing in particular, just the obvious, site visits are finished now, but there is one that because of their graduation. This meeting interfered with that, so you will hear one of these spring site visit reports at your August meeting. So I hope they have a wonderful graduation day today, we know that's very important. And really nothing else. I would just like to echo what Cheryl said to both Kathy and Jerry in terms of just appreciating you from a staff perspective. You've been wonderful to work with, so patient with any little hiccups that needed to be dealt with. In particular, the travel team is a group that works under me, and you've been wonderful to those folks. It can be difficult when you have travel snafus. So patience and understanding is always really appreciated.
David.
I'd like to give you an update on Senate Bill 1263, which is the TPA bill. That bill was passed out of the Senate Education Committee, went to Senate Appropriations. And in Senate Appropriations, they voted to amend it to now remove all requirements related to RECA and the assessment of reading instruction competence. So if this bill passes and is signed by the governor, there would be no assessment statewide that every candidate would need to pass. No TPA, no assessment of any kind for RECA. The bill next goes to Assembly. It was referred to both Assembly Education and Assembly Higher Education. Our understanding is that Assembly Education will hold a hearing the last week of June, and Assembly Higher Education will hold a hearing the first week of July. They must hold their hearings, I think, before July 4th, so July 3rd is the last day they can hold those policy committee hearings. We have heard that there are negotiations going on between the state board and the CTA, which is the primary sponsor of this bill. So we will see what happens with it. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Also, David, did you want to mention that the commission will actually be
So
hearing this bill and potentially taking a position on it at the June meeting?
thank you, Aaron.
Which
Yes.
is rare for the commission. So.
David, if it is passed, when does it become an effect?
It depends if they put an urgency clause on it, which it doesn't currently have. So as is, it would go into effect January 1, 2025.
And that would impact any student who'll be going through the credential process, hoping to complete by June.
And we may not know the resolution to that until
We-
October,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right, till the end of September, so the governor has until September 30th to veto or sign any bill that is passed by the legislature this session.
Or if you
Or do nothing,
or do
yes,
nothing,
unless,
still let the bill pass. Yeah.
And that would be retroactive to candidates who still have those outstanding requirements.
retroactive is probably not the right word, but those requirements would no longer be there. So any candidate who, for example, has not been able to pass RECA, has met every other requirement, then yes, programs could recommend them.
So then theoretically, they can actually wait until January and not submit. And if January, if it's determined it's still going to go forward in its present form, meaning this tests are still required, it'll be a sudden influx January to June, I imagine.
Could be, so we should know by the end of September where everything stands with this bill.
And this would not impact at all the administrator performance assessment?
It would not.
And again, if you have current candidates right now who are trying to complete, they need to complete everything that is the current law, so. I know, candidates tend to hear things and then assume that they're a done deal and they're not,
You
yeah.
might just wait it out. and see what happens.
And so as, you know, so commission staff cannot do differently than follow the current law. So we have opened up the window for programs to submit their literacy certification documents. We will be working with interested people over the summer to train reviewers. So full steam ahead on that.
All right. Wow. Well, here we go. We're moving on to item 6. Thank you, David. And item 6 is program approval recommendations. So this section is for action, and today there are 2 institutions with 3 programs for approval. First institution is Anaheim Elementary School District's Clear Admin Services Credential Program. And joining us today from Anaheim Elementary School District to answer questions you may have about the program are Tammy Ledesma, Senior Director of Human Resources, Susan Keller-Holtz, Curriculum Specialist in Delton, and April Oritz, Roving Vice Principal. Any recusals? Okay. Would the institutional representatives like to say anything about the proposed program?
Well, good morning. My name is Tammy Ledesma. We're honored to be here with you today. This has been a long vision for Anaheim Elementary. Susan and I visited the commission about 6-7 years ago, Susan, and it was recommended at that time that we consider moving forward with a program for our administrators, and things have gotten in the way, which I've heard you speak about earlier this morning, that's halted or paused our vision. And so now I'm very excited that with our things that we've been able to put in place, it has enhanced and secured a path that could really benefit our administrators that are seeking to clear their credential. So we're honored to be here with you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
They're shy, it looks like.
All good, all good. Thank you for being here regardless.
Of course.
So we'll now open for a public comment. As a reminder, if there are members of the public that would like to provide a comment, notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card, clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or by pressing *9 if participating by phone. And comments will be limited to 2 minutes. Any public comments? No public comments. Okay, thanks. Any committee members have questions for our representatives from Anaheim? I don't see any. So do I have a motion to approve the Clear Admin Services Credential Program for Anaheim Elementary School District? Thank you, Member Lee.
I move to approve. Clear credential.
Ed.
Anaheim Elementary District.
Thank you.
That's why
Perfect.
just stick to the.
Excellent. Cool. Any seconds? All right. Thank you, Member Hillis. You don't have to repeat everything as your second. You're off the hook on that one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right. Motion carried. Congratulations, Anaheim. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on your adventure.
Thank you. Appreciated.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have Riverside County Office of Education's preliminary PK3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction credential intern pathway. Hello, hello, Riverside people. Joining us today from Riverside County Office of Education are Andrea Mazzo, Administrator of the PK3 ECE program. Hello. Melanie Oliver, Director of the Center for Teacher Preparation Credential Programs. Hello. And Dr. Ursula Estrada Reveles, Executive Director of the School of Education. Hi, Ursula. Any recusals? Thank you. Member Hillis. Would you tell us a little bit about your proposed program?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would like to start by saying thank you. Thank you to you guys, the COA, for your consideration of approval for this program. And we want to extend our sincere thanks to our own school board members and our cabinet for their support. And a special acknowledgement to our county superintendent, Dr. Edwin Gomez, for his visionary leadership and his steadfast support with this program. Our design team efforts have been instrumental, and I want to highlight the contributions of Miss Andrea Mazzo and our PK3 administrator, Dr. Diana Ortiz, our director of our multiple subject PK3 and our soon to come BILA programs. And then I also want to acknowledge a team member in RCOE, Miss Mallory Centeno. She is from our early year learning unit, and she has made significant contributions to this program. And also her director, Mr. Joseph Nieto, for allowing us to leverage her knowledge and her wisdom in developing this special program. And we are deeply indebted to the IPR review team. Rosemary Wynn, Poonam Betty, their commitment, their support, answering our forever questions, and staying with us throughout this process and journey. And lastly, I want to thank Dr. Ursula Reveles, sorry, Dr. Estrada for her belief in us and her push to go ahead and to do this. So thank you.
You are very welcome. I'm excited to share with you about the RCOE School of Education. This unit was established in 2019 with a mission to provide high quality preparation and clear credential pathways driven by our values rooted in equity and excellence. I'm excited to introduce our latest initiative, the PK3 Early Childhood Specialist Instruction Credential. This program addresses the growing needs of universal pre-K and transitional kindergarten programs. The PK3 ECE Specialist Intern Program is a 2-year initiative focused on developmentally appropriate practices and culturally sustaining pedagogy, aiming to develop innovative and reflective practitioners for our youngest learners. It includes online coursework, diverse field experiences, as well as robust mentor support. The credential will have a long-lasting impact upon the students in Riverside County and beyond in a very special way. While we uplift the early educator community who represent a wide variety of individuals, including women of color, which will provide a more diverse teaching force. The research shows that to have even one educator of color not only results in reduced rates of student discipline and rates of chronic absenteeism, but also results in higher academic outcomes and college-going rates across all student groups. We look very much forward to the impact that these educators will have upon our students. Once again, thank you for your support and dedication to education. Together, we're shaping a brighter future for Riverside County and beyond.
And I just like to thank the commission and the IPR team, especially Rosemary Wren and Renee Marshall, and the ability to have the community circle meetings that we had where they allowed us to come together and collaborate and share what we were going through and ask 1,000 questions to them that they answered for us. Riverside County Office of Education is really excited to offer the new PK3 ECE intern program credential. We know that the program is going to support our youngest learners in our school districts, and we just look forward to seeing the positive impact that this program will have on our communities.
Public comments, are there any?
We do.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, please.
The microphones, I maybe
All new.
I could stay put, right?
No, I'm sorry. Speaker, thank you.
Good morning, committee, and thank you for your work, and thank you both of you that are departing for your work as well in this space. I don't want to sound redundant, but I'm going to sound redundant. Steve McDougall is CFT, representing educators and classified professionals. And CFT within my division council certainly has a number of locals that represent folks in the early child education space. As already has been said, to be redundant, often these employees that we trust with our treasured little ones are of color, predominantly female, and woefully underpaid. And creating a pathway for these growing pains with the expansion of UPK, which has caused some uncertainty in those folks throughout the state, and making it easier for them to get it done and provide quality programs for our little ones is imperative. So I'd like to say thank you for your efforts as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members. Comments, questions?
Well, thank you for coming to see us in person. We see people on the screen, which is fine, but it's always nice to see people come on. And I would like to echo that point of making a pathway credential for people who might have been excluded otherwise. And so that's what I appreciate about programs like this. So good work.
Yeah, I would just like to say that, this whole credential process and creating these programs has been very, very, very intense. And I just want to say that I really appreciate the intern pathway for people. I think that's a very valuable thing because people are woefully underpaid. And I think that really goes a long way in really creating some equity in terms of allowing certain people to come into the fold. So I just want to say thank you for your work. And I think this is very exciting.
I first say thank you for doing this. I know the need is great all over California. Have you guys had any kind of either pushback or difficult conversations with some of the like local providers and state preschool providers as a result of what has come in from California? And if so, like how are you kind of bringing them into the fold?
We actually have a very collaborative relationship with all of the providers. Melanie mentioned Mallory Centeno and Joseph Nieto. Joseph Nieto comes from that community, as does Mallory Centeno. And so they have bridged that gap with the community. So it has really just gone over without a hitch at this moment in time. We're anticipating servicing a large number of PK3 credential candidates who come from that community. And we also have a large number of those employees who are our own. So yeah, it's going very, very smoothly at this moment.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Go ahead, Member Mueller.
Too would like to echo a lot of the comments that have been made. I really appreciate you bringing this forward. I know how much work goes into developing a new credential and these PK3 credentials, the on-ramp was ridiculously steep. So congratulations and thank you for the work that you've been doing. Why the intern path? And do you have plans to expand to non-intern paths or are you sticking with that?
We don't. We believe in intern programs because intern programs provide an opportunity for those who would not have the fiscal means to become fully credentialed. I'm a former intern myself out of LAUSD, and it would have been cost prohibitive for me. And so I think it's important to shed some light and to provide those opportunities for interns.
And just a point of clarification, local education agencies can only offer the intern pathway. Only IHEs can offer the student teaching pathway.
Thank you, Shed.
That's a great contribution.
And I just wanted to thank you for helping the state understand how to do this, because this is how it works here in California, right? I mean, this is part of the whole accreditation process is to study models of how programs actually demonstrate alignment between their practice and established standards, right? So thank you for doing that. And your wide range geographically, just numerically in Riverside, this is an incredibly influential initiative that you're launching. And Ursula, you're just so articulate in terms of why this matters, in terms of underrepresented, undervalued, underpaid, and hugely influential people in our state. So thank you for doing that and helping us to track a story so that we can understand how to, communicate that to other people and help other programs that are trying to do something similar. It's a lot of work and you wouldn't do it if you didn't think it was important. So thank you for that. Yeah, go for it.
I don't want to overstep. I'm not a committee member. I'm a staff member, but I just wanted to, you said so much about thank you to the IPR team for answering all of your questions, but I want to acknowledge the work that Riverside County and all of the programs, if you're out there listening, that is currently in the process of trying to get a new program through. It is a lot of work, and especially for these preliminary programs that have to respond to the new literacy standard, the hill for these new programs has gotten much, much steeper. And the process is really intensive. So thank you for asking the questions and for sticking with us when we ask you a million follow-up questions as well. It's become a real feat to get these programs approved, and we know that they're important, and we just appreciate you hanging in there with us as well.
Right, just ask a follow-up question to that, which is, being cognizant of time, but in light of what Erin just said, what would you identify as a potentially useful aspect of this process? In what way did you feel like it was worth your time and your effort? Could you help us maybe understand that a little bit?
Sure. I think what was most beneficial was just the access to the IPR team, their willingness to meet whenever we had a question. They have office hours that they do twice a month. But if we reached out to them, they would, schedule meetings with us within like a day or two, just to go over it. It really became an iterative process where we went back and forth, but it was just so helpful to have access to them, their willingness to meet with us and guide us along the way and to offer some clarity as we were revising. So that part was just really appreciated by us here.
Well, thank you. I think sometimes the perception by people who are not so aware of how the process works is that there's some sort of like top-down auditing sort of function at the heart of accreditation. And I have found being on this committee that what you described, I think, is what we're hoping is programs' experience with this process. So thank you for that too. Comments? All right, well, here we are. Do I have a motion to approve the, I want to abbreviate, okay, preliminary PK3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential Intern Pathway from Riverside County Office of Education? Go for it, Member Taylor.
I move that we approve the Riverside County Office of Education PK3 ECE Intern Credential Program.
Thank you, Taylor. Seconded by Member Lee. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Congratulations. Off you go. Yay.
That's great.
Hey.
Travel safe.
One more.
That's right.
They'll probably come right back.
Okay, good. So moving right along. I don't know if you're gonna scurry away again.
We traveled safely to that side of
it. Is Riverside County Office of Education preliminary multiple subject credential program intern pathway. Hello again. I was gonna say you should just come and hang out with everybody else here. All right, so here we go. Hello again. And so representing Riverside, again, we've got Dr. Yana Campos Ortiz, and we have Melanie Oliver, and we have Dr. Ursula Estrada with us, back with us. Hope I get your names. Well, it's not hard to say, Ursula. No, it's not. Any recusals? Okay, away you go. Right, Riverside, tell us about this one.
Again, I want to start with my thank yous, and I won't go through the whole thank yous again, but I do want to add, in addition to everybody I thanked before, to our team back home, our Center for Teacher Preparation, our whole School of Education team back home, our credential team, all of our coordinators, administrators back there. It truly was a team effort. In addition to our education partners who we meet with 4 times a year, just the back and forth and getting their feedback and how we could improve, how we could make it better. I just really appreciate that. So thank you.
And in terms of our why, you're probably aware that we already offer an ed specialist credential, Mod and Mod Severe. And so when you ask yourselves why the multiple subject credential, it really is about the evolving awareness in the state of California. I'm sure that you're familiar with the group Dyslexia Now, who is attempting to draw attention to the needs of the students across the state of California. And so our vision for the multiple subject credential is to really bridge that world from a preliminary credential perspective, where those candidates are able to interact with one another and able to learn about best practices when it comes to educating students with special needs. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Ortiz.
So I'm the new one here. Good morning. I came about 1.5 years ago being tasked and privileged to write the program, the multiple subject program, right before the changes last year around this time. And although it has been such a process, it has been, I'm very proud of the program that we have before you, alongside just the collaboration that we had in writing 2 programs at the same time, and having Andrea as a thought partner and colleague in our ups and lows of the writing of this program. As a former intern program, an intern myself, first college graduate, it was very important to develop this program as a well-rounded program for our students that we serve, and meeting the needs of all our students. And so it's been a privilege and an honor, and I'm very excited that the day is here and sitting before you. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Let's see, am I supposed to say public comments next? Comments, if there are some?
No public comments.
Thank you. Committee members. I had a question about, I had a couple questions. One of them kind of goes back to your other proposal and its intent and potentially huge benefits to people in our system. Are you or your partners working on this initiative recruiting classified staff who often have demographic attributes that are different from that of traditionally credentialed teachers?
Yeah, so we have secured the C2CT grant, which is a classified to teacher grant. And we work very intentionally with classified employees who are on a pathway to earning either an AA or a BA and moving on into our credential programs, as well as we collaborate very closely with Mallory Centeno and Joseph Nieto, who oversee a large body of classified employees who have a particular interest in the PK3 credential.
And I would just observe further that one of the things that Dr. Ortiz that I appreciate about your remarks is further description of all the ways you have these people in different programs communicating with each other with the goal of, it sounds like from what Ms. Oliver said, that this is an attempt to learn from one another and kind of challenge each other. And you do it with regular ed and ed specialists, like you said, Ursula, and then, you know, you're gonna have the PK3 people with the credential people, and then you have these 31 different groups that you're supporting throughout this giant geographic area. You're a pretty amazing team.
And we wrote a bylaw that is gonna be reviewed sometime in the near future. And so that is our goal, right? Is to get these folks to articulate with one another and to come up with best practices that we can model across the state. So that is our goal.
So what do you do systemically that enables that type of collaboration synergy to occur? What's the secret?
I would say it's our leadership, you know, from Dr. Gomez, our county superintendent, who embraces the we're better together model. And our continuous check-in meetings, our continuous collaboration meetings throughout the whole School of Ed. And then not only with our School of Ed, but with our district partners too. They're key in that endeavor.
And I would agree with her comments. I really do think it's about, you know, hiring quality people and who are able to come to the table to share best practices, sometimes even in disagreement, right? It's not about hiring people who think like we do. It's about hiring people who know what best practice is and are willing to engage in dialogue with their colleagues about that. That's why we brought Dr. Ortiz over. That's why we brought Andrea Mazzo was working for our Center for Teacher Induction, and we viewed her as a person who had the expertise in the ed specialist content area. And so, you know, bringing in talented people who are able to engage in honest conversations is key.
Well, it sounds like you have you know, sometimes the unspoken lack of priorities in an organization can lead it to not necessarily establish this. It's difficult to build what you've built. So clearly, you know, you've communicated what's important enough to make that your kind of vision. That's neat. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's nice to see what that looks like. Yeah, Member McKee.
Echoing what everyone said, it truly is impressive when there's a vision. And when I look through everything, and even the fact that you came from Riverside to be here today in person connects to the vision of how you're trying to make sure everyone's supported through all the paperwork. You want to make sure the interns aren't going to fail in the process, and that along the way there are those checkpoints. You're removing barriers across the board in everything you do in support of students and support of the candidates. And in addition to that, when you go through the initial program review process, it takes two sides. It takes the commission staff, but it also takes an organization to, everything is laid out so clearly, and your responsiveness and the clarity that you provide us to understand what you're trying to provide is just greatly appreciated. And I do believe the commission staff is absolutely amazing, but it takes an institution to be equally amazing to work and build that collaboration together. I'm excited to see that this is really a model for other organizations out there. So I commend you just wholeheartedly across the board for everything that you're doing. It's the leadership is clear, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to hear you say that. We really do aim to teach every single candidate how to dismantle systems of inequity. And so to hear you say that really validates.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, good. Well, thank you. Any other comments? All right, well, let's see. Do we have a motion to approve preliminary multiple subject credential program intern pathway for Riverside County Office of Education? Take a minute. Oh, go for it, Member McKee.
I move to approve the preliminary multiple subject intern pathway for the Riverside County Office of Education.
Thank you. Well said. Seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations again. Yay. Aye. Thank you for coming here in person, as Member McKee already expressed with gratitude. Okay, so we'll move on to item 7, which is report of program status changes. And this item is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 includes items for action by the COA, which include requests to withdraw, requests to reactivate inactive programs and or requests to add new content area to an existing program. So part 2 provides information on programs that have transitioned to revised program standards and programs that have elected to change to inactive status. These items are for notification only and require no action by the COA. So regarding part 1, sections A, B, and C, we have no requests for sections A and B this time. And then moving on to section C, which is adding new content areas to an existing program, there are 2 institutions requesting to add new content area to their existing programs. And the first one is St. Mary's College, requesting to add single subject dance. And we have representatives from St. Mary's here with us, if you have questions about the program. And I'm hoping that these are the people we have with us here. We've got Catherine Davalos, Professor of Dance, Jill Rathjen, who's Program Coordinator for Teacher Education, and Monica Fitzgerald, Associate Dean in the School of Education. Are there any recusals? Okay. Institutional reps from St. Mary's, what would you like to tell us about your what would you like to tell us about your proposal?
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for having us today. I want to thank Jake for really helping us get here. His consultation was priceless. So thank you, Jake. I'm glad to finally see you in person. And this has been a really wonderful process with both Kathy and Jill collaborating. We have a really thriving dance program at St. Mary's, a dance major at St. Mary's. So we're really excited to finally be able to offer this to our students. So thank you for your time and consideration today.
All right, thank you. Anybody else, St. Mary's? No? Okay, public comments, are there any?
No public comment.
No public comment. Committee members, questions about the program? No questions? Okay, well, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Yes.
I move to approve the St. Mary's College single subject dance.
Okay. Second? Member Morrison, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you for your patience, dance people. Awesome. St. Mary's. All right, then thanks for thanks for being here, audible and otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations. Congratulations, everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. We have our next program edition is San Diego State University single subject dance. And we have some representatives from SDSU to answer questions you may have. We've got Dr. Nina Potter. Hello. Liz Buffington. Actually, I should identify Dr. Potter's credentials as the Director of Accreditation, Program Review and Assessment. Liz Buffington.
Patricia Garcia.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So did I get the name? Liz, are you here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Hi, Liz. Okay, so I want to read your titles as well. Cultural Proficiency Minor Coordinator and Advisor 21st Century Blended Learning Coordinator and Lecturer. Hello, Ms. Buffington.
Hello.
And then we've got Lynn Burkhaw, Director and Professor, School of Teacher Education. Good to see you. No?
Nope.
No Lynn.
Lynn
Okay.
couldn't make it.
Okay. Any recusals?
Whatever you can. Yusuf Ibn Rashid Hill.
Getting some feedback from somebody.
Kind of odd audio. We're not quite sure where that's coming from. We okay? All right, I think we're good. Refusals. Anybody refusing themselves? No? All right. Comments, San Diego State. What would you like to tell us about your proposal?
I'm sorry, we just want to thank you all for being here, and we're really excited to start offering this credential. It's been work with collaborating with our dance department and local school districts, and we already have students knocking on the door to get this credential, so we're very excited.
Well, thank you for answering the call. Gotta open the doors. That's why we're here. Would you like to say anything? Anybody else?
Just that we appreciate the opportunity. We have great partnerships with our undergraduate degrees and continue to nurture our candidates at every stage of their post-secondary journey.
Thank you, Ms. Buffington. Public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. Committee member questions, Ms. Gracia.
No question, just, really excited to see all the new arts programs come into being. They're so desperately needed. And so I'm just really excited for everybody with the dance programs. And I'm glad to hear that there are students ready to go and knocking on the door. So thank you for that.
Do you find that your candidates are primarily dance people, like exclusively, that's their sole area of credential? Or do you have candidates who are adding a dance credential or supplementing a primary authorization with dance?
I'll let Liz speak to it more. She's more in contact with the students, but I do know that we are talking to them about doing both PE and dance together because that's what we've heard from the school districts, what they want to hire. And so we're just advising them, God, words are not coming, advising them that they'll be more hireable if they have both credentials. But we have a lot of people that are dance people that really want that credential.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, the people I know who had dance credentials also had math credentials. I don't know if that's of interest, but you know, I think that they kind of go together. There's a little magic in both subjects.
You
So
gotta count, you gotta do the patterns.
Yeah, there you go. And this is an item for action.
Nathaniel, okay.
We will. It's gonna happen, people. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion? Member Taylor?
I'd like to congratulate Nathaniel on his graduation. I'd like to recommend that the committee approve the addition of the single subject dance credential to San Diego State University's accreditation.
Well done, Member Taylor. Second? Member Creasha, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Congratulations, San Diego State. Viva Dance. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your patience.
Bye.
Thank you.
Right. Good. Well, moving right along. Now we're moving to part 2. This is sections D and E that are for notification purposes only. So no action is required. And section D is programs transitioning, and there aren't any programs in that category at this time. So section E is programs moving to inactive status. And we have one institution requesting to move 3 programs to inactive status. And that is San Francisco Unified School District. And the 3 programs that they're asking to move to inactive status are specialist teaching bilingual authorization in Spanish, which would be effective September 1st. Secondly, preliminary multiple subject intern, effective the same date. And preliminary ed specialist, mild to moderate support needs intern, effective also on September 1st, 2024. Ms. McGee, would you like to say something about this?
I just wanted to say something about this. So many of you may have been reading about San Francisco's Unified's dire financial straits at the moment. So the institution has decided that they need to put these programs on hiatus while that gets worked out. The timing is a little bit strange for us because we still had stipulations on San Francisco Unified. So you'll see that we've been working really hard to with them directly. Our reviewers working really closely over the last few months, and it comes up later to address the stipulations that remain, which are with the BILA program or the bilingual program. So that comes up later. But I just wanted to let you know that we were sort of insisting that they clean those up and that we get those removed so that should the time come that they want to reactivate, would they have a good roadmap to maybe do so. You know, really been working hard with San Francisco Unified very closely. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay, so again, no actions required. That is for notification purposes only. So I guess that means we move to item 8, which is a discussion of institutions not in compliance with accreditation timelines. Good news. There are no institutions to report at this time. Okay, so item 9 is a discussion of the 3rd quarterly report from Monterey County Office of Education. And consultants Dr. Sarah Solari Colombini and Steph Morgado will present this item. And they are joined by institutional representatives Marlena Malazzo and Karen Lewis. Hello again. Ms. Malazzo is the Director of Leadership and School Systems, and Dr. Lewis is the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. Anybody need to recuse themselves? All right. Dr. Solari Colombini, would you begin, please?
So, good morning. In October of 2023, a virtual site visit was held for the Monterey County Office of Education. Since that time, staff at the county office have worked to address the stipulations as well as other requests made by the COA. This morning, you have the third quarterly report for the Monterey County Office of Education in front of you. This report reflects the work accomplished to date. The COA requested specific evidence of meetings occurring between mentors and coaches, a rubric that shows how candidates meet the current standards, a plan for candidates who do not meet standards, a summary of information about how the mentor's time is spent and how it aligns to the standards, and how work between the mentors and the coaches aligns to the standards. That was at the last meeting. Staff reviewed the evidence submitted and noted that the evidence submitted aligns to the standards. Specifically, rubrics are aligned to both the CASC and the teacher induction performance expectations. A plan to assist candidates has also been included. Monterey has included narrative and evidence addressing the progress that they have made since the site visit to all the rest of the stipulations. So, with that, a revisit is scheduled for October 7th through the 9th of this year with the original site visit team. A report will be presented at the December COA meeting this year, sharing the results of that revisit. So representatives are here from the Monterey County Office of Education to answer any questions you may have about the report that's in front of you that covers both.
Good morning, everyone. We just want to begin by saying thank you for the opportunity to be here, and what a beautiful new building. It's very lovely coming in, and I know everyone's working out the kinks, but it looks like it's well worth it. So we're excited to be here with you today. And as Dr. Colombini mentioned, we do want to specifically address the items within the Q3 report for you, and we want to be respectful of time. We do want to share just a moment of gratitude with our learning community. There has been a lot of work underway and so much that has transpired over these past, 6 to 8 months. And the last 3 to 4 weeks, as you can imagine, we've, been in colloquium celebrations, and it's just so rewarding to really be able to see the positive impact that it's having, not only on people in their profession, but also in their lives. And so we want to say thank you to our teachers and to our administrators and program advisors and incredible community partners that really have been walking alongside of us in this process. So we're appreciative. And Marlena would also like to cover some of the items that we're addressing in the Q3 report.
Well, good morning, and I appreciate this opportunity to share with you just a few of the examples of the work that's taking place both in our CASC and our TIP programs. So over the past few months, we've shared a lot with you about our progress of refining and co-designing with our community, and that process is continuing. Part of that's been the multiple versions of the ILP and the IIP forms and processes, which you've seen in the report. One of the main focus areas of that process was to reformat that document and reorganize the related systems to make that easier and more clear. So we've been really focusing in on that. We've included the input from our EPAC committee, our mentors, our coaches, our program advisors, and our employers. We launched 6 redesigned team meetings open to all constituents to gather feedback from current forms and processes and to hone in on our best practices. And as a result, those current draft documents consolidate all those essential elements. There's a link for supporting documentation in them, evidence in one consistent, cohesive form, which is really what most of our constituents wanted, was to have it all in one. So we learned that. And we're going to continue that refinement process over the next month and honor all of the input and data and feedback sessions and continue to have them over the summer if they're interested. In March, we received some direct feedback that there was a section in our ILP form where teachers explored the context of their learning community. So features such as student demographics or their cultures of their families, deeper understanding of their current classroom, et cetera. And that should be provided as a separate document and not included in the ILP as part of the ILP. So we appreciated the feedback and the help, and we're able to incorporate this knowledge immediately. So as you can see, that current draft of the ILP now includes the opportunities for the teachers to participate in these activities and to gain that valuable experience, but it's linked as a separate document and as a separate activity and is not part of the main ILP. And additional revisions are ongoing, not just for our ILP and our IIP documents, but for all of our documents. We're continuing to have that feedback sessions, and our open office hours, and our constituents are coming by. We've had a lot of individual conversations really with people stopping by or coming in, which is great. The cohort 22 year 2 teachers are currently utilizing a CSTP growth over time form to demonstrate their progress towards mastering performances outlined in the CSTPs. It is very similar to our previous form, but it adds the additional CSTP elements, which were not in the other form. So those changes were discussed initially with the coaches and the program advisors. We had informational meetings, emails, newsletters, Canvas announcements. Also created a few tutorial videos, which we included into Canvas, and helped support everybody through that process of those changes. And I know our teams are working hard, and we're going to continue the efforts to increase those communications. And then similarly in the CASC program, coaches were able to reflect on the candidates' proficiency of the capsules. And that addition was made to their assessment of proficiency document. They were already rating themselves on the capsules by element, so the bulk of the changes did not impact the candidates in that program. We did include the coach reflections, which we did also in the TIP program, but we encoded coach reflections for the CASC program to make sure that those standards were aligned. And then informational meetings for the coaches were held to accommodate those changes. Individual meetings were held with each individual coach who couldn't attend those meetings. And then many came to our office hours. We find our coaches are pretty open and excited to come and chat with us, which is great. TIP and CASC both received an updated colloquium rubric this year to clarify how those presenting artifacts exemplify their proficiencies against the 6 CSTPs and also to really highlight their PTRA cycles that they were engaged over their 2-year program. In collaboration with their supervisor, their program advisor, coach. And then the CASC, their rubric really highlighted their goals, their inquiry cycle, and their proficiency on the capsules. So coaches, supervisors, participants in the colloquium were able to rate the presenter and the speaker and give feedback on the presentation, as well as additional participants, which was a really great experience. While coaches in both of our programs have always tracked their hours on those collaborative logs, there was a suggestion during the last March meeting that we really summarize those coaching hours on a summary log. And so within the spring semester, we were able to implement that coaching log, as you saw in the report. They were able to definitely capture the activity, the standards, and give it a much more succinct total. So we appreciated all of the feedback we received from the COA and from Sarah and from staff. And as you will see in the report, there's also a Zoom report which shows the number of attendees in each one of those meetings. We look forward to the site visit where some of the items may appear in a more traditional format where you will see the exact attendance. We know what that expectation is, and we're prepared and ready to demonstrate the items to the site committee where they can examine the information and it stays on our site. Dr. Lewis mentioned the depth and breadth of the work that's been taking place. And I want to add that we're continuing that conversation at the redesign with our theory of improvement. Our partners based on our empathy studies, our mid-year surveys, our end-of-year surveys, which are all coming in right now, and we'll continue to do so based on the feedback that we're getting. So with that, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share some of our current work that's happening today and our excitement about our innovations that are coming for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or, let's see, public comment.
We do have a public comment.
We do have public comment. So let me read this real quick. As a reminder, if there are members of the public that would like to comment, notify our moderator. And it sounds like our contributor knows how to do that. So go for it. Public comment. You don't even need *9 now that you're here. Right?
The aircon's working. So the committee, Steve McDougall,
president of CFT's Early Childhood through 12th Grade Council of Locals throughout Cal. Come today representing CFT, but also the Salinas Valley Federation of Teachers, located representing the contracted teachers and substitutes in the Salinas Union High School District. We have almost 1,000 members. A number of our members go on to become administrators. I stay close with some of them. I recognize the work that's been happening. I recognize that work's being done. CFT has been publicly supportive in the 6 to 8 months since that October meeting. I'm gonna take a sidestep to say that at a previous meeting, your space was wasted defending the indefensible of a former leader of this program with people who use their contracted workday and duties to defend something that's indefensible. If they have watched that video from October as many times as I have, no business defending what transpired there. The entity, the LEA, knew this was coming, whether the leadership knew it or not. Someone there knew it was coming long before October. And then October happened. The leadership would not have known if CFT did not let them know what happened in October meeting. Sure, work's been done, but I have a candidate right here just this morning who responded to my query about how things have changed in the 6 to 8 months. Now let's look at the receiving lens of the work that's been happening. There hasn't been much change. They have changed one checklist for me. Remember that one easy thing to do straight away that did happen straight away? Where I feel like I am duplicating information. Well, at least we checked the box and got it done. So what if you duplicate your work, eh? They extended my deadline as a result. There is also a new file dropped in my folder that I'm not sure what to do with. My coach and I are meeting Friday to figure out that because I emailed her and she doesn't know either. Other than that, processes haven't changed, just that one document. We've been patient for 6 to 8 months, and I know it's not easy to have sea change in that time. But this program, according to the presenter in October, was left as it was found over a half a decade ago. So, do they get the death penalty today? I don't know. That's up to you. You're the pros. Staff says let them live another quarter. I wouldn't let them off the hook. Monterey County has the worst high school graduation rate in the entire state of California. I have other data points, but I think you get my point. They need help, and they needed help yesterday. We need educational leaders, not pretenders. Thank you for your time. Welcome.
Additional public commentary.
Thanks. Linda Coyne, please unmute.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me? Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Steph, for nodding your head. Good morning, everyone.
Sounds like the people in the, Steph, can you hear her? You can? We can't hear her in the room. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on 1 second. Well, I'm trying to move forward at least.
Okay. Thank you for the workaround.
For the
With the
sake of
technical difficulties.
clarity, if you would just give us your name, because it doesn't appear in audio, that would be awesome. And then you will have 2 minutes to tell us what you think.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Linda Coyne, and I'm a veteran coach, excuse me, for both the teacher induction program and the administrative induction program at the Monterey County Office of Education. I have proudly served in these programs as a coach since 2009. I have seen many changes over the years, and I can assure you that the training, collaboration, and communication with coaches is reflective of the current standards that were put in place in 2017. Since I only have 2 minutes, I would like to highlight just a few points about MCOE's administrator induction program from a coach's perspective. Over all of these years, we have had situations in which some candidates have experienced tragic personal situations and they have had to step away from the program. I'm very proud to be part of a program that cares deeply about the individuals that we serve. When an individual has extenuating circumstances, we allow them the time they need to step away and return to the program when ready. We check on them and care about them. We as coaches meet with our program director and the participant or candidate to create a support plan. Sometimes people just need a few weeks, and sometimes they drop and come back later. MCOE and the team is always welcoming and supportive of every individual, and we all work together to be sure that everyone has multiple opportunities to succeed. Not all programs work so hard to have all of their persons complete the program, and we do that here. Formally, we meet with our assigned participants 40 hours or more per year. We meet many more than that because our participants reach out to us all the time. During our formal bi-monthly coaching sessions, they can share experiences, challenges, successes, and how they have handled the various responsibilities and joys of school administration. We log these conversations down on a coaching log and file these in the participant's e-portfolio. Coaches are afforded high-quality professional development so that we can support each participant in the highest quality manner. My fellow coaches and I always collaborate and debrief before and after these training sessions. Some examples of these trainings I've received: training in cognitive coaching, evocative coaching, Laura Lipton's coaching model, and I'm able to choose other advanced options to bolster my skills. For example, I attended the 21st CSLA training, which was offered this year. And our Tier 2 administrators cover the 6 capsules over the 2-year program. In each of the years, candidates choose the specific capsule they want to address in that year, and then they create a continuous improvement plan based on the school or the district's identified outcomes. They design a data-driven area of improvement that we support them with. And a few common examples include some of our candidates address attendance concerns, test score issues, PBIS implementation, and professional development, or employee accountability. Candidates choose professional development that aligns with all 6 capsules and that reflect on the process. As a coach, we lead them through a process that involves deep inquiry and analysis of the evidence of their practice. It is thoughtful work that helps them in their daily lives. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to the COA today. It is truly an honor to be able to serve our education leaders throughout our community and to help ensure that the next generation of administrators are supported and trained in the highest standards to be able to support the unique needs of Monterey County.
All right, thank you, Ms. Coyne. Comments or questions from committee members?
I just do want to acknowledge that there's been a lot of work that you guys have done, and I do appreciate that. I just feel that when I kind of look through the information that you presented, I see in the meetings, I see bullet points of things and topics that were discussed, but I kind of feel that we're missing the information on what those conversations meant in terms of the process of how the candidate is doing and progressing on those particular topics. I don't feel as if I had that kind of information. Can you give me some elaborations on, or an example maybe that you might have that wasn't necessarily in your report?
There were 2 sets of meetings in there. So some of them were informational meetings where we discussed what's going on with processes currently, where candidates were at the time. So those were the informational meetings, and most of those conversations happened there. With the other meetings were redesign team meetings. And so those were really meetings to talk about the new iterations of the documents. And so that might be part of that. Also the individual meetings, I don't necessarily have meeting notes that I've provided for those individual meetings. And so I find that when we get into the deep work of our candidates and our participating teachers, those are confidential conversations. And so I don't necessarily produce meeting notes that are of that type of caliber for that. But we do have more general conversations about where candidates are at the time
And what they're accomplishing and what are the needs of the moment, what are some of the challenges, and then how do we move forward with that? So those notes would be mostly within the informational meeting notes.
Following up on Member Krishna's question, I think one of the pieces of evidence that would illustrate what I think she's requesting would be an actual ILP from a teacher in the program right now. And I didn't see that in your materials. I did see a template. But I didn't see something dated 2024.
Yeah, we did bring an example of it from last year, but we do have one with us right now. If you would like.
Is it in your year 3 or your 3rd quarterly report?
It is not, because we provided it during our Q2 report. We had 5 examples.
ILPs and ILPs were in Q2.
Right.
So we just brought the items that were requested from the.
That is not my recollection of what it is that we talked about. And so I don't want to split hairs about whether what we requested was there or not. But when I look at the stipulations, what I read is a timestamped ILP from the current year, because what we're talking about now, if we accept this report, we're looking at a revisit in October. That'll hypothetically be the start of your year. So I'm very concerned that if we don't have evidence that things like ILP or demonstrated artifacts from your actual implementation of standards-based practice, not the theoretical lens that frames that, if you're not generating that evidence right now in practice, although things have to change while you're riding a horse, I understand that is a reality as acknowledged, you won't have the evidence you need for the revisit. So maybe, I mean, are you on track to generating evidence that you will have, in fact, ILPs from 22 through 24 that are aligned with the current induction standards, not the old BITSA model?
Yes.
Okay, because if you don't, then the stakes get higher at that point, right? Yeah, Member McKee.
So I first want to acknowledge when I looked at what you submitted on this report, and I think back to October, my word in my mind was transformational. Like there's clearly I'm not sure if you've worked with other programs in the area, done some research. I kind of sensed I saw something had another organization there. So it looked like San Francisco or somewhere you were consulting with somewhere else out there, which is awesome. That's what you're supposed to do. Go out to other clusters. What does your IIP look like? What does your ILP look like? And the work in terms of what we requested, I appreciated the fact that you had the timestamps. It said like 67 people were in the meeting. It was clearly the meeting was an hour and 20 minutes, whatever those pieces are. I'm generalizing, but those pieces were there. And I say transformational compared to what, because we had to ask a lot to get to that point. So we got to a better point. But I also want to share kind of on the same note is that we have asked for like those completed pieces and those sample pieces in October is site visit. They're going to ask for a lot more. And they have to be documents that are in their entirety. So like the IIP and the ILP that you show us as blank samples, which are great documents. The question would be, are those the documents currently in use? Because in October, they're going to see that it was used this year by these candidates. Or are these documents that are hopeful to be used in October? Because then we're kind of in October in the same position that we have a new form, but it's not implemented yet. So then we're going to be back to quarterly report. I'm not predicting the future because I don't see that right now. I'm not saying that. So I kind of want to know those assurances, because I there is a lot of work that's been done and these things will be fantastic, but where are we going to be in October? Does that make sense a little bit?
Makes a lot of sense. It's really where we've been. That's been our reality, is really addressing the needs of what's happening for our participants and constituents, where they're at in this moment. That's always our primary focus, is caring for them and where they're at in their plan. Then we also have people who are in a transitional
place in that depending on where they're at in each one of the programs. And then, as you mentioned, when people start as they're entering in this new program, they'll have a completely different version. So we really have a few different phases of that. I think that also speaks to Mr. McDougall's comment, and I want to thank him for his willingness to, talk about what one of our candidates has experienced, because I think that's what we need to do. That is the work that we've been engaged in, is really just deep empathy work. And I think for that might have been that they were in the phase that's in the middle. So where there was a minor change, but not a significant change because they were well underway into their program. So it depends on which program they're in and where they're at in that program, and working in consultation with our consultant, where we needed to make changes for each one of those programs at that certain timeline. So we do feel very confident that we will have the documentation for October. We're really excited. We have been working with many partners. We have new program staff. And I know that was something that just came up as well. That's something that our superintendent had shared in our first visit, that we were engaged in, moving down the road with a new team for program staff. We've also just hired another administrator of induction programs. And I would say that that change is hard. So there's some people that would want that. And then there's some people who might still feel like they're attached to those old relationships and to those old programs. And so what we find right now that we're doing is really facilitating the change process. We spend a lot of time really thinking about facilitating that change process. But to the details of the documentation, yes, we feel very confident that those will be prepared and ready for October.
I'm not sure that we're talking about details of documentation, though. I just need to say that in terms of this being toward the end of a year-long inquiry designed to set your program up so that when there is a revisit, you have cash in hand, not details of the documents, but you have evidence that your candidates have been engaged in an induction process that's aligned with the standards. The form is fine. But the form is, at this point, if you're putting it into action now or planning to do that in September, you will not have completed ILPs. That is impossible, right? Because I don't live in an altered time space environment. So just be aware of that there may be additional needs for support moving forward. And I think, the staff here at CTC is incredibly talented and experienced, but their time and energies are limited also. There's only so much that they can offer in terms of, support. It kind of has to be this reciprocal process. I wanted to make one other suggestion or comment as I looked at your documentation. I like your coaching log. It's incredibly detailed, and it made me think, because I didn't see that before. And as Member McKee said, that marks a significant step forward. If there's any way you can quantify and empiricize those numbers so they're not just in a static form, put it in a Google form or something so that you can collect and aggregate, disaggregate, sort, keep track. That I think would go a long way to provide you with useful information regarding not just how people feel about your program, but what people are doing with your program. What kind of support are people actually capitalizing on? So if you had drop-down menus in your form instead of just coding it in, literally, then you could pull all that. And so, before you get too far out, asking everybody to do that, maybe converting that to something that you can count would be helpful, because I noticed that was your next step, was that you wanted to have this systematic process for looking at data, and data is beyond narrative feedback, right? It's got to be quantitative also. And same thing with your CSTP growth over time form. It looks like it's derived from the continuum of teaching practice. And if so, there's some really good descriptors of each of those proficiency levels in the continuum of teaching practice. So it's not so much anybody's call, whether it's emerging or, innovating. A lot of that work has already been done. So, I would encourage you to look at that continuum of teaching practice as a tool for generating quantitative data on self-assessment. Yes. Plus,
Again, thanks for all the forms. They do look great. My question was about that CSTP growth over time form. It says the form is being currently used by year 2 TIP teachers. Is it being used by the year 1 as well?
So the year ones are utilizing it, but again, we're part of that transformation where they're moving into it. With the timelines, what we were looking at for the end of the year, because they're rating themselves on the end of the year. We are shifting them over to the new form at the very beginning of next year. So they did some reflections on their individual elements, and the coaches did reflections with them on the individual elements, which again gave them more time and additional work to do during the end of the school year. But it wasn't as harsh as it was for the year 2s when they flipped and they needed to do the additional forming. So we really tried to put as much support as we could behind that. We extended deadlines. We made sure that everybody had what they needed in order to complete that. But we did it a little bit more slowly for the year 1, so that when we launched at the beginning of year 2, it does have many of those drop downs. It's just actually really great advice. I appreciate that with the log. And so that's what we're going to be doing with that. But yeah, so the year 1s are moving into that process.
Okay, perfect. And I guess just to follow up, so how is that growth over time form and the colloquium rubric for those year 2 candidates? How is that looked at in terms of their recommend? So like.
Oh, it is absolutely looked at as part of their recommend. So we look through a number of different pieces of their 2-year learning, the ILP, but the CST growth over time form, that was part of it. And the coach reflections, actually, when we added them, it was a suggestion from the COA in March. I thought it was a great suggestion. It really, we got a lot of good feedback from the coaches as well, because they were able to have these really deep conversations about what they had seen for those CSTPs, and how those related to the practices in the classroom. And it led to a deeper conversation with the teachers. So they were aware of the rubric beforehand, before they went to colloquium. They crafted their presentations around it, but it also allowed them to gather the artifacts in a better way. So I think at first there was a lot of pushback for the rubric, because it was a little bit different than what they had seen in the past. But I've gained a lot of really positive feedback from it afterwards. So great question.
Perfect. Yeah, I would love to maybe see the next time we see you, maybe an updated checklist before you recommend a candidate, to see this new growth over time form and the new colloquium rubric, how it's documented there is something that you verify.
I'd like to thank Steve McDougall for his public comment. And I'd like to ask you, how would you respond to his comment?
Yeah, so just as I was sharing a little while ago, we're actually very thankful and appreciative of the comment, especially the information related to one of our candidates. That information is information that we've been actively seeking and actively collecting over the course of time through both quantitative and qualitative analysis, and in multiple different formats, and in a lot of different discussion forums as well. I know for some of our candidates, they will have experienced less change than others, as Marlena just described. So I think it depends on where they're at in that process. And I do understand his concern. We had a concern related to staffing of the program, and I believe that we've addressed that. Is there anything else in?
How many candidates do you currently have?
Just under 100.
Sorry?
Just under 100.
Just under 100. And so what proportion of those roughly 100 candidates have you engaged in the process of improvement and making progress towards addressing the 55 stipulations that you had?
There were varying degrees of that, and that's because they're working administrators. And as you know, your first couple of years as an administrator are very challenging. And so they were invited into any of those redesign meetings. Many of them met with me individually because they couldn't make specific times. And while I had morning windows and afternoon windows and evening windows, Again, your first couple years as an administrator, that does not work. So most of them have been reaching out to me individually to have those conversations. I would say probably about 30% right now. And then, of course, we're getting the same thing with the data for the mid-year surveys, the end of the year surveys. We've also opened it up, I've given out feedback forms of different types as well, just to let them know that that's available, and then through open office hours.
I would say some of our participants have participated in all of those things. Some have participated in some of the options as they're able to participate, and then some maybe have participated in some of the survey mechanisms that have gone out, or opportunities for them to not necessarily join a session, but be able to give their feedback through another format for us to be able to have that. And that was included in the mid-year survey and report that was provided for the focus groups. And then, as Marlena mentioned, we're also doing that for end of year right now as well.
Yeah, just as someone that has been intimately involved in the process of accreditation and continuous improvement, engaging every one of your candidates in this process, I think would be valuable to you. It's not just about getting accreditation. Clearly, Monterey County needs school leaders who are on the cutting edge of best practice to address the statistic that Steve shared with us earlier. So engaging those emerging leaders in the process of ensuring that your focus is on continuous improvement, not just addressing the 55 stipulations that you've been given, but moving forward, it has to be on continually improving this program, bringing every one of those candidates into a community of practice around being on the cutting edge of best practice principles in school leadership. I think is going to be critical.
I certainly agree with you. I think we will have a better opportunity as we start the new year with the organization. Our admin credential program also does their colloquium at the end of April, which made the timelines, as you can see, a little bit different. My beginning was in January. Most of their professional development sessions where they met as a team had already ended at that point. So it was important to get as much voice as we could, but also it's that balance of trying to also not burden them with additional stuff. But I think at the beginning of next year, that'll be an integral part of our meetings together.
Thank you. And we do agree related to the theory of improvement. So simultaneously conducting the continuous improvement work while also making modifications and providing the service for the programs. So, and we'll continue to engage in that deeply.
I do get, when I look at all the data pieces, that when you have two programs like administrator induction, teacher induction, it kind of behooves you to create one vision of a program just for October. I think a next step also, just remembering though they are two distinctly different programs. And so I see some surveys that were sent out to both groups. And it's hard to disaggregate that, right? Is this what the teachers are saying, or is this what the administrators are saying? And I know in the narrative is disaggregated, but it's the graphs is one whole group, but they're not one whole group. They're two distinctly different programs held to two distinctly separate standards, the capsules and the CSTPs. So, and then the words, right? Like in the administrator induction, it's about a coach, and in a teacher induction is about a mentor. And they have different names and different words in the standards. And I mentioned that I think a couple of times ago, some of those words are still interchangeable. So from a review standpoint, when we're looking at this, sometimes we can get confused, right? And so it's not that you're not doing these things. Clearly, candidates are happy in the survey. And I think that's very important, but we also want to make sure they're being provided with the right support and the right standards, and they're happy with that piece, right? So that's just kind of just my thought as I read through things. I still kind of get a little bit confused. But a question with this is, my understanding is that the candidates for a teacher induction are getting 20 hours of mentoring a year. If the average school year is like 30 to 36 weeks, how is 20 hours selected as the on average of an hour a week of support?
It's 20 hours or more. So I mean, that's the minimum. Hours. Most of our participating teachers are receiving much more than that. Most of them are receiving 40 hours of coaching a year.
So kind of just a thought, and I'm not here to design the program, but I would encourage to look at how many weeks is the teacher teaching, because that's how many weeks they should be mentored. And if there's concerns by constituents that people aren't being supported as much as they could, maybe it could be examined, what is the requirement of support they're providing? When I saw that, I thought that 20 hours, I thought sounded like on a low end. Now 20 hours based upon, maybe they started late in October and that they got 20 hours because that's what they had. Well, they have to still be 75% of the year to be full time. So there are other parts of the standard. And I don't think 20 meets that number. And that's where I think back to other members saying, when we see more logs and see, well, this person got 20, but these people all got 35. But also being cautious, the administrative induction standards say you can't go above a certain number of hours. So I know that someone has spoken earlier, and many people get far above and beyond. Well, you actually can't go far. I think it's 50 hours that you actually have to have a completion plan, because you can't get to 60. And so being careful that even over supporting an administrator isn't meeting a standard. And so this is all I just share, like there are things in the standards for certain purposes, and those are things that they still have wonderings. With the closure of, it is transformational what's there. I mean, clearly there's a lot that's been done, and there are going to be people along the way that may not be happy as candidates or as mentors or as coaches. So I know your journey has not been easy, and I want to acknowledge that you're trying to meet the standards while also being new in the role, while also having expectations to people you're supporting. It's a conundrum that you're in, and please know that anything I offer is from support to make sure that kids are being served and staff is being served.
Just maybe a couple of questions and comments, more for staff than anything else. Looking at, they currently have the accreditation with stipulations, right? With probationary stipulations. And if I can ask if the committee can refer to the page that's on our table here, it has as far as what is within our purview as a COA, what actions we can take during this meeting. And based upon the 1, 2, 3, 4th down, when I submit periodic follow-up reports, it looks like our actions, and just clarification from staff here, would be the asterisk items, those two, and then the check. So it's either with stipulations, with major stipulations, or is it at this point to continue with probation stipulations? If we decided that.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So at this point, though, if it's just a report, then our only action is to offer comments and to accept the report. Well, that's what I'm saying. If we do not accept, what does the ending result from not accepting?
I can tell you that's probably never happened in my experience. So I'm answering this with some trepidation. Typically what happens is at the end of the site visit, you have a finding. Finding was probationary stipulations with quarterly reports with a follow-up revisit.
Right.
And that revisit is scheduled and going to happen. I believe it's within your power to do any action at any point in time. Because I'd have to look at the accreditation handbook. And that language about quarterly reports, if you don't feel enough progress has been made or any progress has been made, you can make that. You can determine whether you deny accreditation.
Basically. Okay. Oh, and I'm not recommending or suggesting we do. I'm just hearing the conversation at the table for the past hour or so.
seems to be suggesting that there has been noted improvement from the progress there, but that the improvement seems to have significant challenges that we are all referencing, and we're at that point.
Well, I'm just, if I can,
Where are we at this point?
I mean, to kind of maybe paraphrase what you said, and then also to get back to, I think what Member Taylor was saying. Maybe I'm oversimplifying things, but unless all the candidates in your program have been engaged in a standards aligned process documented by something like an ILP, you will not be able to be recommended for accreditation at your site visit, period. So I can't see how we can accept this report. Because none of that real-time evidence that people have been engaged, as Member Gracia started the conversation, that they've been engaged in this standards-based process is present. I mean, yeah.
Can I add to that?
Member Taylor and then Member Morrison.
Of where my concern is, clearly there's been a lot of work, as Patrick was saying, Member McKee. There's been a lot of planning, and I acknowledge that, and thank you for the work that you've done in this planning. But I'm in the stipulations table where you address each of the stipulations, and I'm particularly drawn to Steve McDougall's sharing with us that one of the current candidates, seems to have no idea that there's change afoot. And so I went to the focus group information here to see what we were learning from focus groups. And under focus group, there's a document talking about the importance of focus group and planning for focus groups, and says that focus groups will be conducted at the dates and times mentioned above. And there's no session dates for focus groups in that informational handout. So what I take from this is that you're planning to do focus groups, but you haven't yet put, because it says all focus groups will convene at the following dates and times, and there are no dates. So I would urge you to hold those focus groups. I would suggest that the information that you get from those focus groups will be pivotal moving forwards. And I'm deeply concerned that candidates currently in the program have no idea that this process is underway.
So the dates and times for those focus groups are included in the document. I didn't have internet. I was trying to click on it so that I could bring it up and say exactly what page that's on. There were multiple communications that went out to welcome anybody to be a part of those. We actually selected those dates and times based on the largest number of people who could participate. So they actually helped to shape what days and times we actually conducted those focus groups. We had an external evaluator conduct those focus groups. She was excellent, very professional. We really wanted to make sure that we created the safest possible environment for people to give input and feedback into the program. And so the data that you're looking at in that report is the actual data that came from those focus groups that were conducted earlier in the year.
So sorry,
I'm not seeing data I'm on page 8 of the stipulations table, section G, 9G, and there's a link to focus group information, because I was interested in focus group data. I really want to hear from the candidates in this process.
On the Q3 report, you'll find it. So I think you might be on one of the, Sarah, I'm not sure if it's one of the prior documents that maybe was included in Dr. Colombini's report. I think she might have some of those prior ones there. But if you look to the Q3
report, in the final paragraph under next steps, there's a link there that says programmatic data, and it's just talking about how the data is being used and how it will continue to be used moving forward. And we're actually in our second round of that process right now. I just want to share that was actually conducted many, many months ago. We've been using those data to help kind of support that. And then with this one is reflection of those data from that time. And then we're doing that again right now. So we're actually in our second round of a really deep data study. And we know it's an ongoing part of the program. That's always an ongoing part of the program. We always have our mid-year surveys and end-of-year surveys and things like that. But we've added multiple layers just so that we could really have a much deeper understanding of where the needs were and what some of the ideas. There's been some really great innovation coming from our community. It's been amazing to see. And there's been probably, I want to say, at least 5 or 6 different kinds of discussion forums that I'm aware of and that I've been able to participate in and push in and out of. And it's exciting to hear, the voices coming from our community in terms of, what they would like to see and what they would like to see the program aspire to. So they've been deeply committed, and we have people who really want to, they didn't get a chance in the first round. They just were overwhelmed and very busy as they were coming back in January. And they did request to have another opportunity. And that's why we're putting together a new round of studies right now.
So to honor our other attendees who are now like an hour and 15 minutes behind, we really need to move on this, people. But I want to hear Member Morrison's comment, and then we're going to take some action.
Okay, so I see the focus. I could see the focus. And it's my understanding that if we vote to accept this report, we're accepting it with all of these comments included with it. So we're not saying that, well done, you've done all these things. We're accepting this report as it is. And please note all the things that we're telling you for the next time. So with that in mind, I'd like to move that we accept this report.
Second.
And staff would like to make just one comment. When Monterey County submitted a report, they submitted just the Q3 report. There was no stipulations table submitted with the report. So the stipulations table that you see here is an old stipulations table. So it's not current, it's not Q3 information. So that's staff error on that part. The Q3 report that you see as an attach or as a link in this report, Q3 report is a current report. The stipulations table is the stipulations table from the past. So it's
October 23, so
from October 23. That's probably an October 23 one. There was also a stipulations table in January that was updated, and you can go to the Q2 report to see the Q2 table. That stipulations table shouldn't even be probably in this Q3 report because it's just confusing, right?
Well, or could we have one? This one that matches.
We could have included a stipulations table as well. Yeah, we could have, but all that was submitted was a Q3 report. That's all. If you want, we could come back in August with a stipulations table. We could bring a stipulations table to the COA. That's one option, but we do have a revisit. I think the big thing here is that we're missing candidate voice, right? And we heard Mr. McDougall come up and bring a candidate voice up to us concerning candidate voice. And the site visit or the revisit, in October is what's going to bring us that's what we're looking for is candidate voice. And that's been the missing piece throughout this process. And it's always the missing piece when we come to you with these quarterly reports. And I don't care which institution it is, when we have these quarterly reports, the candidate voice is always missing. We try to capture it through sample ILPs or coaches logs, but you're limited to what's provided, right? You're limited to this little snapshot of what's given to you. And so in October, the original team is going back and the original team will interview the constituents who appear, who are there. And that is the voice that will be heard. And that is the voice that will be brought back to the COA. And that's largely in my report, I think you remember in my report from the January, the focus groups were there. The focus group information was there. And I know I was quite harsh with my report, in that there wasn't enough information there, right? The focus groups were too small in my mind. There were 6 people in one. And I kind of held their feet to the fire about that from the January focus groups. And so again, the revisit is going to allow the opportunity for the full picture, the bigger picture, to be brought to the COA. And I think at that time, either Monterey County, they were on fire in October last year. We told them, you're on fire, you got to put out this fire. And so they have addressed the stipulations in the way they felt best. Process they felt best, whether it's allowing their year ones to do these pieces, allowing year twos to do these pieces. Their program, they understand, they know their constituents. And so we will come in October. Standards are the standards. And they know the standards. They've told us they know the standards. So we're going to come and we're going to measure their implementation of the standards. Either they're meeting the standards or they're not. I understand there are candidates out there and we don't want to harm candidates. But at this point, the candidate voice will come in October.
All right, so it sounded like I heard a motion from Member Morrison.
Second.
Second, Member Lee, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's me. Oppose that. So that's the count. Motion passes. We accepted your report. All right, thank you, people. So we're going to move forward. We have an hour and 15 minutes here to try to make up here. And great thanks to all of our program representatives who are waiting patiently for us. Thank you for that. So here we have item 10, which is a discussion of 7th year report from the University of Massachusetts Global. We have consultants again, Dr. Sarah Solari Colombini, thank you for staying, and Dr. Rosemary Wren are going to introduce this item, and we will be joined by 2 institutional representatives. Sorry to make you wait. Apologies again. Dr. Stephanie Herrera, who is the Associate Dean of Assessment and Accreditation, and Dr. Lori Piowiski, the Dean of the School of Education. So thank you for your patience and thank you so much for being here with us. Any recusals? Member Kreisha, thank you. All right, Dr. Colombini, go ahead and tell us what you got.
Okay, so for this next item, you'll be happy to know that the UMass Global has received full accreditation. This is just a 7th year report. And this was the purpose of requesting this 7th year report. The team requested this report was to ensure that the systems that were new to the institution were being fully implemented. This came about because there was a shift in the infrastructure at UMass Global. The institution went from a campus-based delivery model to an online delivery model. And so essentially, that meant that there was a more centralized structure. So they used to have like these regional centers. So when the team arrived, that's when the shift had occurred, this more centralized model. So much of what the team requested was just a description of how the institution was ensuring that that transition was still providing consistent services to their candidates. And so staff did meet regularly with UMass Global and make sure they were providing, and UMass Global themselves provided what they provided captures that centralized support approach to training and to providing services to staff and students. So no action is required on this item. It is information only, but if you do have any questions about what is in the item, we do have the Dean of the School of Education, Lori Piowiski, here with us, and Stephanie Herrera is also here. She's the Dean, I believe, of Accreditation. So they're here with us virtually today. I'll look over that.
All right, so thank you for joining us. How would you like to say anything about your report?
I just thank you for the opportunity to
Just thanks for the opportunity. We have gone through some substantial change from
campus, more campus-based regional centers, as Sarah was explaining, to more of a centralized approach. And we were very happy to be able to share like everything with Sarah. We met with her multiple times. We appreciate all the times that you met with us, Sarah, and being patient with us throughout the whole entire process. But I feel like we're in a good place now. We've revamped so many systems in a very short amount of time, and would love to introduce but we're feeling very good about the support system that we've developed. Stephanie, do you want to add anything?
She can't because she's, there's no sound here, so that's okay. So I'll just see if the COA has any questions for you.
Thank you for persevering. Member Taylor.
So can you just clarify for me, since they were accredited, they have shifted from being regionally in-person based to now being 100% online?
When they were accredited, they had already shifted to being centralized. So when we had interviewed the candidates, some of the candidates, for instance, the completers and the year twos, had experienced the old regional based model. Quite thrilled, happy. The year ones were in that flux of, because the year ones had experienced the centralized model. And so, and we just wanted to, or we, the team, wanted to make sure that things were moving along smoothly with brand new candidates who would have been coming on that fall, because the site visit occurred in May. So they had already transitioned when the site.
Okay, so Sarah, you said this is not an action
Hold
item.
on 1 second. They've
What if
lost
we're gonna
audio
accept-
and visual. External folks. Oh, now can hear. Okay, sorry about that. Go
No,
ahead.
that's all good. We'll figure it out. So we're going to accept this report, right?
I move that we.
Take it. Yeah, because I think we have to accept it if that's required, right? Okay, so anybody want to make a motion?
I
Go
move
ahead.
that we accept the 70-year report.
Okay, good.
For the university.
Seconded, member McKee, awesome, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Right, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate you being here and patience, awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna move to item 11, which is the report of the accreditation team to Alliant International.
You guys have enough?
Thank you so much, patient Alliant people. Wow, yeah, and if we need more chairs, let's make sure we have what we need.
Good news is everybody's here in person. We won't
Sarah,
have
thank
any
you for
audio issues.
Yeah, right. We hope, right?
This is great, real people. I know, you'll be able to speak. Hopefully, if you just start moving silently, we'll know we have problems. Okay, good. So welcome back, Sarah, and joining her today is team lead, Dr. Christine Zepos, and institutional representatives. I'm gonna do my best to name you all. Dr. Christy Pruitt, Dean, School of Education. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. Carmi Preston, Credential Development Director and Accreditation Specialist.
Not present.
Oh,
Present, sorry.
okay, hopefully. Let's see, Brandon Yonganatus. Close? Yonganatus. Okay, cool. Chief Operating Officer. Ruth Best. Hello. Thanks for being so patient. Associate Dean. Tracy Heller. Hello. Provost. Okay, good. And then Andy Vaughn, President. Thank you for being here. Alliant team. Any recusals? No. Okay. Dr. Solari Colombini, go for it.
Okay, so the final item that I will be presenting today is a report for the site visit to Alliant International University. Alliant International University site visit took place April 7th through the 10th of 2024. Both the team lead, Christine Zepos, and I worked with the institution for many months leading up to the site visit. The leadership at the institution showed incredible attention to detail when planning for this site visit. I would like to thank them and their faculty for their thorough preparation. The site visit team had ample access to the faculty and the institutional staff prior to and throughout the visit. I would also like to thank the members of the site visit team for their work. This institution offered 7 programs, some serving over 100 candidates. This meant that there were multiple offerings of role-like interviews, which made for a full schedule for every team member in the attempt to get adequate representation. The team lead, Christine Zeppos, masterfully guided the team and remained laser focused on the standards. So thank you, Christine. With that, I'm going to pass the presentation over to the team lead, Christine.
Thank you, Sarah. And it's wonderful to see you all face to face. It's been a while for many. And I do, just before I start, hope that we can continue some more face to face. It's wonderful to, you can get content online, but the face to face, I think, especially in this accreditation work, is important. So I hope that is something that is supported by the commission over time. But could not have done this without Sarah. It was a complicated, large team, many elements that required a lot of assistance from the commission, and was always available to us and guiding the team amply. And I have to thank the team. This was a team of veterans, colleagues that I have served on other teams with, people that know the standards in and out, and made a complicated visit just healthy discussions and really some veteran opinions to be able to put issues into context. So Edmundo Linton, Marita Mahoney, Rebecca Summers, Belinda Karsh, Manuel Correa, Madeline Mija, and Terry Colpin. I too also want to thank the team from Alliant. As Sarah said, we had what we needed of access to faculty, to instructors, to when documents were requested, they came over quickly, and truly the feeling from the Alliant community could not have been warmer, and it was really a pleasure to work with. Especially Dean Pruitt and Carmi Preston, who we worked most closely with over this time. So having said that, let me go into the program findings. As you've read, and I'm going to highlight the program standard findings and also the stipulations, and hopefully put a little context in the discussion of how we arose at some of this. So the program standards, all program standards for the preliminary multiple and single subject credential with intern program are met, with the exception of standard 5, which was met with concerns, and standard 3, which was not met. Standard 1 and 6 for the preliminary education specialist mild to moderate support needs with intern program were met, with the exceptions of standard 2, 4, and 6, which was met with concerns, and standard 3, which was not met. All program standards for the preliminary administrative service credential programs are met, with standard 8 met with concerns. All program standards for the PPS school counseling with intern are met, with the exception of standard 4, which was met with concerns. All program standards for PPS school psychology program with intern are met, with the exception of standard 2, which was met with concerns. All program standards for the CTEL program are met, with the exception of standard 1, which is met with concerns. In relation to the common standards, all common standards were found to be met, with the exception of common standard 2, which was met with concerns, and common standard 3, which was not met. So based on these program standard and common standard finding, the team recommends accreditation with major stipulations, and we recommend the following stipulations. Within 1 year of the site visit, the institution must submit a report providing evidence of documenting the following in relation to the common standard 2 issue, that candidates and constituents are able to articulate the systems of support. And I want to highlight that again, that the candidates are able to articulate the systems of support that are available to candidates addressing. There are systems of support, but the candidates were not able to articulate them to the team. The support, advice, and assistance to promote candidates' successful retention in the program by the unit is effective, showing that the candidates access to the appropriate personnel to assist them in identifying meeting program requirements. And third, the unit's clearly defined process is in place to support candidates who are struggling and need additional assistance to meet competencies is effective and effectively communicated to the candidates. In relation to common standard 3, that the site-based supervisors are selected, receive training and supervision, are oriented in their supervisory role, and are evaluated by the program and engage in two-way communication with the program that is effective and systematic. I highlighted the two-way communication It was clear through the visit respondents that there's ample one-way communication, but the two-way communication was not evident. In relation also to standard 3, that the programs effectively and consistently use assessment measures to evaluate fieldwork and clinical practice to provide candidates formative feedback on the competencies. Stipulation 4, that candidates can articulate the effective support provided for the performance assessments required for the credential, that the candidates of the mild moderate support needs program receive content and opportunities to practice the competencies related to the IEP development, and have field work that provides opportunities to observe a variety of classrooms and settings to select focus students for deeper observational study, that the candidates in the PPS school counseling program can articulate and provide examples of individualized self-care plan to ensure long-term wellness and professionalism to successfully cope with high-stress situations, and that they participate in 1.5 hours per week of group supervision on a regular schedule throughout the field experience. 7, that the candidates in the PPS school psychology program receive content and theory prior to conducting practice of competencies in the fieldwork. 8, that the CTIL program collaborates with local school districts and other development programs to reflect the needs of teachers and English learners. That within 6 months, Alliant International provide a mid-year report informing you of the actions taken toward meeting the stipulations to ensure that the candidates' needs are addressed in accordance with the stipulations. And finally, that within 1 year, Alliant International University hosts a revisit so that the team may interview candidates, completers, cooperating teachers, community partners, and faculty to confirm that all the stipulations have been addressed. The reason we are recommending the revisit is that we were actually surprised coming into the visit of the discrepancies of what we heard. First, for 2 reasons. 1, we did not have ample constituents. In many cases, we had meetings that had no one to interview, which made it difficult, obviously, for the team to make determinations if the standards were met. And often we had interviews that contradicted what was in writing. So again, challenging to be able to say, in some cases, maybe it supported what was written, but in other cases was a differing opinion. Without being able to talk to those constituents, it would be difficult to discern if the standards are being fully met, which is why we recommend the revisit. I'll stop there for now and be happy to answer your questions after the institution has had an opportunity.
Before I hand it off to the institution, I do want to kind of address something here. I know typically we go to quarterly reports. You'll see in this one, we've recommended a mid-year report. And then again, as Christine said, the revisit. You'll notice in these stipulations, this word effectiveness, and it's quite a, kind of a touchy word there. But really, as Christine alluded to, there are lots of systems in place, for this institution. But it's really the candidates weren't able to, and we didn't have enough candidates, but they weren't able to speak to these. And so, so they weren't effective, right? There wasn't effective implementation. And so the only way that we can actually adequately get at that is to speak to candidates. And so that's why a report's not going to tell us much at all, as we've seen, I think. And so I think we want to do things that matter. We want to take measurements that actually give us information that's meaningful. And so that's why we just went with a 6-month report. And then, of course, that revisit where we actually can speak with candidates that will give us the information that will assess effectiveness of these systems. So that's why this is the recommendation. But we have many institutional representatives here. Dr. Pruitt, I'm going to start with you. I don't know how you've decided to do.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, members of the Committee on Accreditation. Over these next 5 minutes, we'll be sharing among the team to provide an overview of our progress since the site visit. I will reflect on our institution's commitment and action plan. Dr. Ruth Best will provide a brief response on clinical practice, and Dr. Brandon Juganatis will provide a synopsis describing our recently implemented candidate ecosystem of support. The President's letter and his attendance today demonstrate the institution's commitment, as well as the faculty and staff's commitment to providing our candidates and partners the highest level of service. Our candidate support systems, candidate experiences, and candidate success are important to us. While the credentialing program requires a tremendous amount of discipline and organization on the part of the candidates, we want to ensure that those supports are in place for success. Following the visit, leadership facilitated synergy meetings, allowing faculty and staff the opportunity to process the feedback and identify themes, resulting in actions to further improve practices, most of which we have begun implementing already. To provide a brief snapshot, our goal is to create task force and cross-discipline groups to better utilize our assessment management program system, to proactively connect with district employed supervisors, and to provide the program-specific opportunities which were detailed in the summary report. For example, we will be providing an additional IEP development within our education specialist program. We will be developing a self-care plan for school counseling, and we will be adjusting the master plan of study for school psychology to ensure theory and content are fully completed prior to practice. Every detail of the summary report has been reviewed, and our practice and procedures will be further enhanced for maximizing the candidate experience and community partnership relationships. We recognize that we did not have the anticipated participation from all of our candidates, alumni, and community partners. In preparation for our revisit, our focus is to improve candidates' perceptions of the program and to better communicate to them how their participation at the site interview impacts the efficacy of our programs.
In line with CCTE, AACTE, and CTC principles, we can all agree that clinical practice is critical to maintaining high-quality teacher preparation. In that vein, as the newly appointed Assistant Dean and with the extensive experience and training as a school-based mentor, as well as having had oversight of clinical practice programs at other institutions, I am committed to collaborating with our program leaders, faculty, and staff to address the areas in need of improvement that were identified during our recent site visit. The goal is to further refine our systems and processes to bridge the perceived gaps. For instance, the communication channels between the program and candidates, as well as between the university and school-based educators.
Our team has been actively enhancing the candidate journey to support our diverse learners and deliver what we hope to have be an exceptional, equitable, and educational experience. To share some recent developments underway, we've recently expanded new roles, including my own, at various levels focused on personalizing support communication across our programs. We've developed and are launching new candidate support assessments during the onboarding experience, ensuring that we are delivering personalized resources and timely information. We have redesigned our candidate orientations to align more closely with our programmatic experiences, which will now include feedback mechanisms to further assess areas of needed support. Candidate feedbacks are vital to our new model. Our new real-time support assessments have been developed and will be embedded throughout the program, throughout the student experience, the candidate experience, so our support staff can proactively identify and address specific needs. Furthermore, we're thrilled to launch EDU Direct, a new division of staff providing candidates with expanded availability and a single point of contact, aiding in the coordination across all lines of communication. We will continue to prioritize our candidates' success and our commitment to providing resources, support, ongoing feedback, and continuous improvement. But most importantly, we recognize the significant impact this has on our candidates' achievement and the value of our candidates and what they bring to the educational communities they will serve. On behalf of our administration here today, the California School of Education, we thank you for the opportunity to comment.
And as soon as the site visit team left us, Dean Pruitt talked about immediately initiating groups that came together to really process and incorporate the comments. And to some degree, the disconnect. As provost, my high confidence in the program we built, but it is about how it is being received. And that is really what was key to us. So the efforts of those teams that came together, including immediately launching a survey to our candidates as well across different credentialing programs, and really discriminating between those experiences that is going to support our future work. So I've been brought for the important job of doing the handouts and do that work that is happening.
Oh my God, real stuff.
People and stuff, and I have to admit, I was gonna make
Like
the
hardcore
joke of
stuff.
moving my mouth, but not saying anything, but I didn't know if the formal.
That might have sent me over the edge. Thank you.
Other stickers, that's what I.
Thank you. I think you're sensitive.
Well, thank you very much then. Comments from the committee? Oh, public comment. Sorry, my bad. Michelle, what do you think? Any public comment? No public comment. Yes.
Thank you for all being there. Thanks a lot. One of the things that jumped out to me when I was reading the reports was that comment about calling meetings and nobody showing up. I've never seen that before, so that struck me. And there was other things, theme about communication back and forward seemed to run throughout the report. So maybe the answer's in here. I haven't had the chance to see it yet, but maybe you could tell me what are some of the things you're going to do so that when the team goes back, they're not going to have a meeting where nobody shows up.
Absolutely. And yes, there are more answers in the folder, but I will give you a quick snapshot. It is important that we change our candidates' perceptions, their perceptions on how important their feedback and their attendance at our site visits are. So we're going to do more as a community to make that known. Also really cultivating our faculty's relationships with our candidates. And letting our candidates know that their support and their access to giving us feedback and showing up at these site visits are crucial, very important.
And Dean Pruitt, if I could, we know that students pick our program in many ways because they are balancing the start of their new career, maybe even other work, family life. And that is why our program works so well for them. But then that notion that one of those other things at that moment seems more important. And so that understanding that this is their alma mater, this is the institution that is behind their degree, and really that importance of being there and even taking that time to provide us that continuous real-time feedback loop so we can be improving the program.
First off, I want to commend you for the professionalism of being here and how you've coordinated the response. I am impressed, and it shows that this matters to you. And even a handout, right? Like, but all those pieces together really shows that I think what was shared was the systems are in place, it's just how it's communicated. And I think you must have seen my sticky of questions because you answered them like one by one going across. And just kind of that notation, like the struggle, it seems like sometimes getting constituents of the supervisors or the training of the supervisors and that clinical practice piece, you said it, that's like the most important piece is, do the supervisors know what to do and what's happening in the practice? I have no doubt from what I saw here today that the site visit will be stellar and maybe even building into the MOUs, that expectation. If you're a supervisor or mentor or coach with us, you will be at that site visit. Like that's almost having more people there should be more of the expectation, but with the nods and everything, I'm confident that will already be the case. Even having your president here just shows the commitment. So thank you.
We're open to ideas. Actually. Yeah.
Well, I appreciated Sarah's comment earlier about the imperative of candidate voice being the most critical data element in the accreditation process, right? Because like, why are we here? Well, we're ultimately here to serve the people who are working directly with kids. So I am struck by the parallels between effective classroom practice and effective program management, right? If kids feel heard in a classroom, they're going to learn things. There will be relationships that are developed that are going to ensure the success of all, including the teacher, right? And there's going to be change and innovation and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I think I heard a couple references to unidirectional communication and you need more bi-directional communication, more of an exchange of ideas. You know, I'm thinking of, you know, some of the things that Riverside said, which clearly to me suggested that they had worked really hard on developing this kind of like network thinking. So I talk about that, and I guess I'm gonna ask you what, and I haven't read this, so, you know, maybe there's things in here that speak directly to that. But what are one or two ways that you think, like low-hanging, easy things that will increase that bidirectional or multi-directional communication from your candidates to program leaders? Because if you have that, they'll come to the focus group. Right? If you have that, they will know their voice matters, right? That's why it's a red flag when they're not there, not just that they're busy. So what do you think? What's one or two ways that communication practically could be accelerated?
Right. Well, one of the, there's a few things, but one of the things that we are going to do immediately, we've already started the implementation, is changing how our opportunities to meet with candidates. Right now, we offer an opportunity to meet with candidates. And if they show up, that's great. But if not, we were not recording that. And so we will be recording it as well as offering multiple times. And so it's not a once and done. So we want to encourage our candidates to show up. Also, it is about communicating more to our candidates and letting them know that they need to show up and encouraging them that they will gain more than just having their questions answered. That it is about building that relationship. So we've had some really creative ideas from the faculty about how to do these orientations and these office hours. We've talked about almost replicating a flipped classroom in the form of office hours, where we have our candidates running the office hours. So our candidates are conducting the office hours and the instructors are there just to facilitate and answer questions as needed. And so that builds more of a community environment, and it gives our candidates the confidence that they are leaders and that they can, again, just have that voice. So there's been some really great talk from our faculty about ways that they want to be very creative in cultivating these relationships with candidates.
Cool. Thank you.
And I might add, we've begun to incorporate many additional feedback mechanisms that are more real time. So that, you know, whether it's a very small thumbs up, thumbs down, let us know how things are going at specific points throughout the program, and reacting to that, having actual program staff reach out proactively to the candidate. Cases surprising them, right, that somebody actually looked at that piece of information and we were able to then seek to understand. So these are critical, and we'll be introducing several of those throughout the experience. I look forward to sharing those data.
Cool. Do you guys use Pear Deck or like interactive platforms like that for?
Yes, and our faculty mentioned that along with a few more that we want to investigate and perhaps use, yes.
And, you know, I'll give a real-time example. After our site visitors left, we sort of launched a survey with some of our candidates. And one of the things on the bottom was, do you want to have outreach by somebody? And so we had a whole list of candidates who actually did. And both Dean Pruitt and Assistant Dean Best individually reached out to each of those students. But to your point, we do see it's relational. And even though we are an online distance learning program, and that allows us to really try to have the ability to, again, gain that busy student, but not about busy. We know showing up is relational. And so making more synchronous opportunities where you can come, where you can gain that face-to-face content, not necessarily making it mandatory because it may not fit in, but absolutely making it something available so that we are getting at all of our learners. And that's really what the goal is.
And if I could just share, I'm so glad to hear the relational part, because what we did hear repeatedly was that there were supports or systems in place to support the candidate, but there were so many that they didn't know which one to utilize. And so I think for many, it could be the one thing or the one person And they won't participate in any of the other surveys or whatnot, but it had to be, I need a place to go and I need to do it simply and fast and so forth. So I think that relational component will get us to a different place at the revisit. Whereas what I fear a little bit with what the responses were, that there's so many solutions that I hope it's not overwhelming to the folks that we spoke with.
Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of that single point of contact?
I think unifying resources is critical, and students having a one point of contact, if they prefer, to help navigate all of those lines of communication, including getting in contact with instructor, site supervisor, credential support staff, academic advising from a scheduling or student finance, financial aid perspective. EDU Direct certainly has several goals that will help achieve this and leverage an omni communication channel. So we'll be available to engage with candidates across various forms that might be more convenient to them and ideal based on their own individual conditions. But this is one area that we hope to achieve and report our findings.
And in those synergy conversations, there was also one of the programs actually mentioned probably creating a student advisory board. So then we would hear directly from candidates as well.
Just for the sake of time, first of all, congratulations on the outstanding work you're already doing to address this stipulation. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of accreditation with major stipulations for Alliant International University. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Zeppo, he says hello.
Have a good rest of your meeting, everybody.
Enjoy your day.
Right. They're going back out into cyberspace.
Yeah, good. It's working, yeah.
No.
Are we the next one?
Bringing up the next.
That's okay, right?
Have one. Well.
Yeah.